The era of Alexander the Great and his successors is one of the most influential and widespread in ancient Greek history, marking the Hellenistic period. After Alexander's death, his generals fought for over 40 years before finally dividing up his vast empire into three major successor states: the Seleucid Empire, which dominated Asia, the Ptolemaic kingdom that ruled Egypt, and the Antigonid dynasty that controlled mainland Greece. The term Hellenistic period refers to the time from Alexander's death in 323 BC until the fall of the last Ptolemaic queen Cleopatra, then in 30 BC, when all successor kingdoms were eventually annexed by Rome. During this three-century span, Greek civilization spread throughout the Mediterranean and even into Central Asia, where it blended with Eastern cultures to create a unique mix of East-West hybrid cultures. This period is thus called the Hellenistic era. The history of the Hellenistic period largely revolves around the histories of these three successor states: the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia, the Seleucid Empire, and the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. We will start with Macedonia since it was the first to be annexed by Rome. After Antigonus I's grandson Antigonus II became king of Macedonia, he used the Aetolian League as a federal form of governance over mainland Greece. However, before Macedonia unified Greece, Greek states were independent and didn't take kindly to being ruled by an outsider like Macedonia did. So when Antigonus II took control, Athens, Sparta, and other powerful states rebelled against Macedonian rule. In 266 to 262 BC, Athens led a rebellion but was crushed by Antigonus II, who then firmly established his dominance over Greece. Then, in 227 to 222 BC, the Spartan king Cleomenes III attempted to challenge Macedonia's authority after implementing reforms that strengthened Sparta, only to be defeated and lose all autonomy. Despite these setbacks, Greek city-states continued their resistance by forming alliances like the Aetolian League and the Achaean League. They sought help from external powers such as Rome, which was eager to liberate Greece in its role as a spiritual heir of Greek culture. Roman general Flamininus answered the call and defeated Macedonia at the Battle of Cynocephali in 1997 BC, forcing Philip V to retreat north. Philip's successors Perseus and Andriscus continued to challenge Rome but were repeatedly defeated until Rome formally annexed Macedonia in 1946 BC. Initially, Greek city-states rejoiced, thinking they would be liberated from Macedonian rule, only to realize too late that Rome intended to replace Macedonia as their ruler. This led to a united front against Rome, which was swiftly crushed using Rome's trademark scorched earth policy. The Seleucid Empire, meanwhile, inherited vast territories stretching from Anatolia and Syria through Iran and Afghanistan into parts of India after the death of Alexander. With such an expansive realm came immense cultural diversity, making it difficult for the empire to maintain control, leading to frequent internal strife and foreign invasions like those by Galatians and revolts in Syria. During Antiochus I's reign, he faced numerous challenges, including Gallic invasions, Syrian rebellions, and wars with Ptolemaic Egypt. The threats to a state can be broadly categorized as external invasions, internal uprisings, or rival states undermining its stability. And this poor kid, Antiochus I, came to the throne at a really bad time. Luckily, he inherited his father's territory and managed to survive toughly, basically maintaining the integrity of the empire. However, his son Antiochus II ascended the throne in 261 BC and immediately started struggling non-stop. Due to Ptolemy constantly undermining Syria, Antiochus II had to focus on dealing with the West, thus weakening control over the eastern part of the empire. So by 245 BC, when his son Seleucus II just took the throne, both Bactria and Parthia provinces in the east declared independence simultaneously. The western region of Asia Minor was also occupied by Gauls. The empire suddenly fragmented into pieces. But Seleucus II didn't have time to deal with these issues because he was fighting with his brother over succession rights, so the empire just fell into a low point. However, when Antiochus III ascended the throne after him, the empire surprisingly bounced back. During his reign, Antiochus III proved himself as the most outstanding king among all Seleucids since the founder Seleucus I. Through a series of successful military campaigns, not only did he reconquer Parthia and Bactria, but also re-established control over Asia Minor, Syria, and the Iranian plateau. He even declared a campaign to liberate Greece, attempting to reclaim its hegemony there. This ambitious expansionist move made him confront Rome, the powerful opponent at that time. As we mentioned before, Rome was already the big boss of the Mediterranean by then. For those who don't know how strong Rome was back then, you can check out my previous video on this topic anyway. Even Hannibal, a rare strategic genius, could defeat Rome. How could Antiochus III win? So in 190 BC, after barely reviving the empire's glory, Antiochus III suffered a crushing defeat at Magnesia and was forced to sign a treaty with Rome in 98 BC, ceding territory and paying reparations. The Seleucid Empire then began its decline. From 187 BC to 129 BC, control over the east gradually weakened, while rebellions broke out among Greek cities in Syria and Asia Minor. Internal strife within the royal family was also rampant. Although Antiochus III, who ruled from 138 BC to 129 BC, once personally led a campaign against Parthia to restore eastern territories, he died during this expedition, leaving the empire without its eastern provinces forever. From then on, the Seleucid Empire became merely nominal, with its territory shrinking to Syria and western Mesopotamia. Finally, in 64 BC, it was conquered by Pompey, one of Rome's triumvirs, and incorporated into the Roman Empire. Now let's talk about the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, which was established earliest and survived longest among Hellenistic states. Actually, after listening to previous episodes, you might have noticed that political systems adopted by these Hellenistic states were basically continuations of those on their respective lands. Greece used to be a collection of independent city-states, so Macedonia's rule over it was somewhat like a federation. Asia had always been under the governor system, hence the Seleucid Empire continued this system too. Egypt, however, has always followed an absolute monarchy system similar to that of pharaohs. So did the Ptolemaic dynasty. Among all Hellenistic states, the Ptolemaic dynasty undoubtedly had the best economic development. With the unique agricultural advantages brought by the Nile and its superior geographical location in southeastern Mediterranean, the entire kingdom, especially Alexandria, quickly became a trade center of the Mediterranean, as well as a cultural and scientific hub. But those who watched last episode know that the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty, Ptolemy I, one of Alexander's generals, always aimed to expand towards Syria. His successors inherited this goal too. Thus, from 274 BC to 168 BC, the Ptolemies and Seleucids fought a 100-year Syrian war. Almost every time, the Ptolemies would seize parts of Syria when the Seleucid Empire was in turmoil and unable to cope. Then the Seleucids would stabilize their situation and reclaim some territories after concentrating forces, signing treaties with each other. Overall, it seemed that the Ptolemies were on top. However, things changed when Antiochus III came to power. In 204 BC, the incompetent and tyrannical Ptolemy IV suddenly died, leaving behind a huge mess. His successor Ptolemy IV was only 5 years old at that time, so a bloody struggle for regency broke out within the Ptolemaic dynasty. Antiochus III saw this as an opportunity to invade Syria and occupied it along with Phoenicia and parts of Palestine. He also reached an agreement with Philip II of Macedonia to divide up Ptolemy's overseas territories. But in 200 BC, Rome suddenly sent envoys demanding that Antiochus III restrain themselves from invading Egypt because they didn't want the ancient artifacts imported from there to be affected by war, since these were important food sources for Italy's large population. Neither Antiochus III nor Philip II actually planned to invade Egypt proper, so after signing a treaty with Ptolemy V, they withdrew their troops. From then on, the Ptolemies chose to ally with Rome and gradually became its vassal state. At this time, due to internal corruption within the Ptolemaic dynasty and severe court struggles, national economic conditions began deteriorating. As economic deterioration exposed previously masked social contradictions, Egyptians, who had always been dissatisfied with Greek rule but tolerated it because of relatively good living standards before, naturally started rebelling continuously now that their lives were worsening. Meanwhile, the royal family also began a series of internal conflicts. In 170 BC, the Syrian War broke out again. Antiochus IV of the Seleucid Empire invaded Egypt and reached as far as Alexandria. The citizens of Alexandria were strong and simply deposed Ptolemy VI, replacing him with his brother Ptolemy VIII. Seeing this situation, Antiochus IV had the idea to make Ptolemy VI a puppet king in Egypt. However, Rome intervened at this time. As a result, it ended up being that Ptolemy VIII and their sister Cleopatra II ruled jointly, but in 1964 BC, Ptolemy VIII attempted to depose his brother and sister and seize power for himself. Upon seeing this, Ptolemy V complained to Rome, which then intervened again, restoring Ptolemy V to the throne while exiling Ptolemy VIII to Cyrenaica as king. However, not long after Ptolemy V invaded Syria and died in battle. The throne was inherited by young Ptolemy VI. Then Ptolemy VIII returned and killed his nephew to regain the throne. In short, the later Ptolemaic court basically spent its time in a chaotic cycle of you kill me, I kill you, with someone ascending to the throne today only to be deposed tomorrow. This continued until 48 BC when Pompey, one of Rome's first triumvirate, fled to Egypt after losing the civil war against Caesar. The then Egyptian king Ptolemy III killed Pompey and presented his severed head to Caesar in an attempt to curry favor with him. However, this only enraged Caesar further. At this point, Ptolemy XIII's sister Cleopatra VI appeared on the scene with her boldness. She turned Caesar into her lover. Not only did Caesar abandon plans of annexing Egypt, but he also forced her onto the throne to rule jointly with the puppet king Ptolemy XIII. When Ptolemy III failed to appreciate his position as a tool for Caesar, Caesar simply drowned him in the Nile and installed another of Cleopatra's younger brothers instead. In short, it was all about power plays. However, on the 15th of March 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by Republican senators during a meeting of the Senate. Suddenly, without her protector, Cleopatra found herself facing the imminent threat of Rome annexing Egypt once again. So she made another move and conquered Mark Antony, one of Rome's other giants. Under his protection, Egypt maintained its independence for over 10 years until 30 BC, when Octavian defeated Antony in a civil war. Cleopatra then committed suicide, bringing an end to the Ptolemaic dynasty, which became just another Roman province. Despite Greek-influenced states not surviving longer than 3 centuries before being conquered by Rome, their influence on the world was profound. Greeks were a maritime people, and due to the vast territories of Hellenistic kingdoms spanning across Europe, Asia and Africa, they formed trade networks centered around cities like Alexandria, Antioch, and Seleucia during the Hellenistic era. A unified currency system, large-scale agricultural taxation policies, and cross-regional trading policies were established, effectively organizing trade between Egypt, Syria, Babylon, and even northwest India. This laid the groundwork for Western economic globalization. During this period, Greek civilization's influence on Asia was especially profound. Numerous ancient Greek coins have been unearthed in Bactria and other Central Asian lands under Greek rule, proving how prosperous their economy and trade were at that time. Local rulers used Greek as a basic official language, making it the lingua franca from the Mediterranean to Central Asia. Even inscriptions on Ashoka's pillars during the Maurya Empire period in India are written in Greek, with even Buddhist scriptures translated into Greek appearing. Kingdoms like Greco, Bactria and Parthia that split off from the Seleucid Empire left behind a wealth of Hellenized architectural and artistic legacies. The Ai Khanun site in what is now Afghanistan shows this to be a fully Hellenized city, despite its location being close to China yet far from Greece itself. Of course, Greeks didn't just unilaterally export their culture to Central Asia. Greek culture also blended with local cultures there, forming various hybrid cultures. The most typical example of this is the Greco-Buddhist art that formed in northwest India. In art history, it is generally referred to as Gandhara art. Gandhara was one of the 16 Mahajanapadas, great kingdoms of ancient India with its heartland located in today's Pakistan region. After the rise of Mahayana Buddhism in the 1st century AD, a trend emerged among believers to worship Buddha statues, leading to their widespread creation. Influenced by Greek culture, locals began making Buddha statues using Greek techniques, resulting in depictions of the Buddha with faces resembling those of ancient Greeks. By the way, Qin Shi Huang ruled China from 221 BC to 210 BC, which coincided with Antiochus III's reign during the Seleucid Empire. Yes, these two were contemporaries. This was precisely when Greek culture had its strongest influence in Central Asia. At this time, life-sized realistic sculptures appeared at the westernmost part of China and never reappeared afterward. Isn't that a coincidence? Besides spreading outward, ancient Greek civilization also reached another peak during the Hellenistic era. During this period, Alexandria under the Ptolemaic dynasty became the scientific center of the ancient world. In mathematics, Euclid established the system of geometry. In astronomy, Aristarchus first proposed heliocentrism, and Eratosthenes designed a grid of latitude and longitude to calculate Earth's circumference for the first time. Engineering saw the emergence of great figures like Archimedes. I did an episode on the ancient Greek computer Antikythera mechanism before. You guys can check out that episode. Feel the technological achievements of the Hellenistic era. As for artistic achievements, well, there is no need to mention them. In the 3 masterpieces of the Louvre, 2 are masterpieces from the Hellenistic era. You guys can check out this video I made. It has a detailed explanation of the art style during the Hellenistic era. So up to here, Alexander's Empire, the War of the Diadochi, and the Hellenistic era trilogy have been fully explained for you all. Of course, after that, history still rolls forward. Rome eventually conquered Greek lands, but in fact was conquered by Greek civilization and became its successor.